Hello, everyone, and welcome to Performance Anxiety's 34th online reading event. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm so excited to be your host for this evening's reading. Tonight's reading is a celebration especially for the publication of Kirstafia, an anthology out soon from the Daily Drunk that takes inspiration from the cinematic collaborations of Kirsten Dunst and Sofia Coppola. So maybe Kirstafia would be a better way for me to say it. In addition to hearing from many of the contributors to the anthology, whom we're incredibly excited to have with us this evening and in great number, which is awesome, we will also have a few special guest readers who are returners to Performance Anxiety, whose voices I'm very excited to hear for the very first time in this series. Just in case you haven't listened in before, Performance Anxiety is an online reading series hosted via Skype, archaic platform that it is. We usually do them on the third Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and at each of our events, we feature a group of invited readers whose work we love or are excited about to share a selection of their writing with us. Having this many slots every month means we're always looking for folks who'd be interested in reading. So if you are or know a poet or writer who'd be interested in sharing their work at a future event, or if you're listening right now and you have poems close by, please get in touch. We would love to hear from you. We're on Twitter at Performance Anxiety, which is Performance ANXT. But you can also just DM us or get in touch with us directly. I'm at Tom Snarsky on Twitter and Instagram, TOMSNARSKY, or you can email me at tomsnarsky@gmail.com, one of our performance anxiety email communications hubs. But you can also get in touch with Kristin Garth, who is Performance Anxiety's co-founder, co-organizer, and tonight will also be our very, very first reader of the evening. So in addition to being co-editor of the Kirstafia anthology, Kristin Garth is a Pushcart Ristling nominated sonneteer and a Best of the Net 2020 finalist. Her sonnets have stocked journals like Glass, Yes, 521, Luna Luna, and more. She's the author of Crow Carriage from Sweet Tooth Storybooks and The Stakes from Really Serious Literature, among many, many, many more titles. She's the founder of Pink Plastic House, a tiny journal, and co-founder of this very reading series, Performance Anxiety. Thank you, Kristin, for being with us and for making this reading happen, anthology and all.
Thanks. I wanted to thank Marisa, first of all, Marisa is the person who came up with the idea for this anthology and approached me about doing it. And I've been in a good position of getting a bunch of anthologies going. So, it's always exciting to me when somebody comes and I'm like, duh, that's like the perfect idea for an anthology. And so all of you owe, your works that are in the book to Marisa and her great idea. And so thank you so much. And then I go ahead and read my poem that both Marisa and I put a poem as a like an editor's note in the beginning of the anthology, kind of to tell our connection with the work. And I'm going to read first the poem that I put in there, and then I'm going to read another poem that I wrote about the virgin suicides. But the first one's called No Affair of the Necklace, but an Affair of the Socks. Guillotined for your greed. The naughty words, forgers, wrote a cardinal, you had no clue. Inspiring, acquiring a necklace you heard was composed for the king's whore, after which you did not want it anymore. It is true pink ribbons that tie 2,800 carats of diamonds were switched to blue, like the bows tied around embroidered white thigh-high socks in 2006. Sofia Coppola knew your price and accessories was something hand-picked for or by lovers, deigned in minutes to the Petit Trianon, where you are yourself. You had affairs of the socks, nothing else. And the other poem that I wrote just about the virgin suicides isn't in the anthology, but it's called Are You the Little Death? A few weeks after Mrs. Lisbon shut the house in maximum security isolation, the sightings of Lux making love on the roof began. Virgin suicides. Will you last 5 minutes on my parents' roof above the place my sister died? Will I be worth a quiet jaunt through child abuse? Toward homemade salad dressings, spermicides. I must store for more in my own slate blue lake I climb upon to drown beneath starlight. Will you abandon me like some mistake while I'm dissipating in plain sight? A teenager in winter who called you on the phone. Any number I remember is better than being alone. At dawn I do my sleeping, lollygagger, limber, inside a bedroom where I cannot breathe. Are you the little death I at last can leave? And with that, I'll turn it over to Marisa.
Thank you so much, Kristin, for starting us off and leading the reading this evening. And that, again, just was Kristin Garth, who is the, again, co-founder of Performance Anxiety, but who you can also find on Twitter at Lola and Jolie, LOLAANDJOLIE. And you can follow all of Kristin's amazing stuff between the anthologies she edits, the books she publishes, the magazines that she runs at Kristin Garth, KristinGarth.com. And our second reader, who I just want to introduce briefly before she shares some words about the work of creating Christophia and some work from it possibly, is Marisa Silva-Dunbar. And Marisa Silva-Dunbar's work has been published in Analogies and Allegories Literary Magazine, Dear Reader, Chanterelle's Notebook, and Daily Drunk Magazine. Marisa is the co-editor of the anthology Christophia. She has work forthcoming in Sledgehammer Lit Mag and Pink Plastic House. Her second chapbook, When Goddesses Wake, is forthcoming from Maverick Duck Press. You can find her on Twitter and Instagram at The Sweet Maris, TheSweetMaris. And thank you so much, Marisa, not only for being here with us, but also for making this possible through the anthology.
Thank you. I was actually I was watching The Virgin Suicides and writing this poem that I'm going to read again. This one is not in the anthology. When I reached out to Kristin, because I knew she was creating a lot of anthologies based on film and literature. And part of me was like, I hope she hasn't done this yet, because I would really love to see this come into being. So the poem that inspired everything is, Are You the Reincarnation of Lux Lisbon? Do you live through the neighborhood boy's eyes? Every home you move to eventually transforms into a prison. How do you unravel the pattern of tragedy when you're addicted to the chaos of dangling from the roof? Play your records to ease the monotony. Daydream of exotic places you and the others can explore. Tell the boys your youngest sister did not become a child bride in Calcutta. Let them know she created a life that wasn't tied to men. How she would kiss the feet of Our Lady of Guadalupe when cleaning her altar in a small chapel in Baja California. Plan your escape without a car or noose or pills. There must be some glimmer, light shimmering through trees. You can run barefoot in the meadows, make flower crowns for you and the rest of your sisters. Show your mother she holds no power, that you will be seen and bloom like an oak bursting through cement. So that was the thing that was the poem that kind of inspired it all. That one is not in the anthology. The one that I did put in the anthology is based on the Beguiled, and it is called Gloaming. Gather, women, create a fortress among the willow trees and Spanish moss. We are not helpless in this isolation. Tend the field, forage food in the tree line. We are thriving in the quiet, are nourished from the land and cream. Supper is a feast of saporis mushrooms, tomatoes. We will not wither in the dark. This is our secret stronghold. We still dance in our finery, play music, and twirl in candlelight before our evening prayers. Do not be fooled by our politeness or ivy corsets and crinolines. Our mistress may appear all manners and charm, but she keeps her revolver close at hand. Do not fear the cannons and gunfire over yonder. You are safe in this deep shade, this eternal twilight. Morrow is always on the horizon. Let birdsong, crickets, and cicadas lull and comfort you. Find restoration in our sumptuous beds from this overpowering heat. When you wake, I will kiss you with the promise of death and tell you if this is Eden or purgatory.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Marisa, for sharing those poems with us. That was
Thank you.
beautiful. And that again was Marisa Silva-Dunbar, who you can find on Twitter and Instagram at The Sweet Maris. One more time, that's TheSweetMaris. And keep an eye out if you were just moved by what you heard as I was. Her second chapbook, When Goddesses Wake, is forthcoming soon from Maverick Duck Press. And you can keep your finger on the pulse of Marissa's work at her website, which is Marisa Silva-Dunbar, MarisaSilvadunbar.com. And so I'm delighted to introduce our next reader of the evening, and that is A.E. Copenhaver. A.E. Copenhaver is a writer, editor, science communicator, STEM and poetry, hoorah, and climate interpreter. She's worked in the environmental and nonprofit sectors for nearly a decade. Her debut novel, My Days of Dark Green Euphoria, winner of the Siskiyou Prize for New Environmental Literature, is forthcoming from Ashland Creek Press in February 2022. Thank you so much, A.E., for being here with us, and I'm excited to hear what you'll read.
Thanks so much for having me. I should clarify that I write under A.E. Copenhaver, but everybody, all of you can call me Athena. That's my actual name. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. And tonight I'm going to be reading Let Them Eat Trees, which is flash fiction inspired by the film Marie Antoinette. Listen, 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 she hissed through lips wet with champagne. She leaned into my ear and whispered, timpani. She sat back again, one arm spread wide like a wing, her coupe filled with golden bubbles floating between fingers so thin and diaphanous they could have been invisible. She pressed a button on her iPod to start the song, Age of Consent by New Order, her fingers clumsy. It was September 2006. Listen, listen, she said to me again. She bobbed her head in time with the music and cupped her hand over my ear, which had one of her earbuds stuffed into it. This is the part where all the white horses are galloping between the trees, with all the light, she said. You'll see. Wait, you haven't seen the trailer yet? This song isn't in the movie, but you'll see. You won't even believe it. Sophia absolutely nailed it. It was the first day of my sophomore year of college, her first day of junior year. Earlier, we found our way to the Rose Gardens after leaving a house party. She had just returned from studying abroad in France and said she had something important to tell me. My heels thudded into the hot sidewalks through the soles of my sandals. She was wearing scuffed up purple Converse and a white t-shirt with the words, actually, Marie Antoinette never said that, written in pink Edwardian script, a tiny slice of cartoon cake underneath. I haven't really been studying abroad in France, she said. Oh, I've been consulting on a film, like a major motion picture. We met during a romantic poetry class at the end of last year, one elective to help round out my historical and restorative ecology degree. She was studying French literature and European history, so really, we shouldn't have become friends at all. But she sparkled and winked in a way that intrigued me, in a way that my earthy, field-working scientist friends could never. She also partied like Keith Moon and cried and threw tantrums like some kind of royal child, but that too seemed to draw me to her instead of push me away, as if she walked into class that day and hung up her soul like a sopping wet jacket on my heart. All I could do was wait for it to dry so I could hand it back to her and so she could put it on and tip-tap in her bubblegum pink kitten heels back to wherever she came from. She continued, explaining how she has special access to information about Marie Antoinette, how she submitted an essay wherein she argued that she was Marie Antoinette in a past life to a contest, which she won. Yeah, she said, I won the chance to have a 1-hour conversation with Sofia fucking Coppola in Hollywood. Like the director? That's so creative to pretend like you were Marie Antoinette in a past life, I said. We passed under the canopy of a northern catalpa, and I thought about the map I once made of famous bean trees based on subtle details about their ecology hidden in traditional American folktales. Except I wasn't pretending, she said. I looked at her. I can't prove it's true, but I can prove I met Sophia and Kirsten and that I encouraged them to embrace the poppy, sexy candy, sumptuous, youthful, angsty, lens-flared romance of that movie. It's coming out soon. Well, because that's how it was for me when I was the Queen of France. In the shady heat of the gardens, I listened like she told me to. Sounds like fireworks to me, I said. Exactly, it's a celebration. Quite drunk on champagne by then, I laughed. Come on, this is insane, I said. It's a very common phenomenon, she shot back. You know that poster of New Order's album I have on my bedroom wall? The one with the faded flowers, I said. How could they have known that that was a painting I had in my bedroom as a little girl? A little Marie Antoinette girl? That's how I know that remnants of past lives are everywhere. New Order was channeling my memory. So when Sophia asked me what I thought about music for the film, show me the photos, I said. She rummaged through her bag and pulled out her camera. She clicked through the photos and said, here's me with Sophia. Here's me showing Kirsten how to trot down the marble hallways. And here's Jason Schwartzman, such a sweet guy, took this photo, where I suggested they use Whatever Happened by the Strokes. Because when that happened to me, that moment in my life, I was saying in my head, I want to be forgotten and I don't want to be remembered. That's not quite the lyric, but you get it. It just had to be in the movie. She sipped her champagne, her lip gloss a pink palimpsest against the glass. I can't explain it other than murder is trauma, she said. Even if someone deserved to be killed, trauma persists. It doesn't go away. We don't go away. Hidden stories are always trying to be retold. She smiled at me. Isn't that what your trees say, or whatever it is you're studying? Last year, I told her about how trees remember droughts and floods and fires. How I wondered what the trees of today would say about us. I looked into the deep shade of the garden, back where the ornamental orchard gave way to a stand of sequoias planted by a man born in 1811. I knew this because I had to study this garden for one of my classes. What do trees have to say, and how do we know what they're saying? An introduction to dendrochronology. The professor had started the class by reading a line from an ancient poet. Who knew, in the faded blue hue of the afternoon, that you would be you, and that I would be you too? And that's it. Again, thank
Amazing.
you
Thank
so much.
Thank you so much, Athena, for sharing that piece with us in toto. That again was Athena Copenhaver, AE Copenhaver, on the books that you should check out and that she is writing and that are coming out very soon. Her debut novel, again, My Days of Dark Green Euphoria, which is the winner of the Siskiyou Prize for New Environmental Literature, is coming soon from Ashland Creek Press in February of 2022. And you can find her on Twitter at Copenhaver_AE, so COPENHAVER_AE, and on Instagram at CopenhaverAE, no underscore. Also keep in touch with her on her website, aecopenhaver.com. And she's also, again, the assistant director for the study of environmental Arctic change. So you can find some of that work at searcharcticscience.org. And as a math teacher, I always love the STEM poetry / fiction / writing crossover. So thank you for bringing that here tonight. Awesome. And we're moving right along in our order, which is always a beautiful thing. And I'm happy to introduce our next reader, who also is a contributor to Kirsophia, and that is Shannon Frost Greenstein. Shannon Frost Greenstein is the author of Pray for Us Sinners from Alien Buddha Press in 2020, and An Oral History of One Day in Guyana from Really Serious Lit coming in 2022. She's a 3-time 2021 Pushcart Prize nominee. You can follow her on Twitter at Shannon Frost GRE, SHANNON FROSTGRE, or on her website at shannonfrostgreenstein.com. Shannon, thank you for being here with us. Take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me? Audible? Fantastic. I have 2 poems I'm going to do tonight. The first one is in the anthology. It is called Power, and it has a content warning for sexual assault, so please bear that in mind. This is Power. What was that, she cried? No use staying on this Holocaust ride. She gave me her cherry. She's my virgin suicide. Jeffrey Eugenides, The Virgin Suicides, 1993. Lux Lisbon fucked with abandon because she just wanted to feel. After it happened, I did the same for the exact opposite reason. Virginity is a social construct, but to lose it is power. To decide to let go of the construct is to seize this power, and otherwise, someone else has broken you with it. Pressure and pain can lead to devastation, can lead to unfathomable loss, like the tragedy of the Lisbon sisters. Or those same forces can lead to a diamond. I wonder which is the case for Sofia Coppola, she of the Coppola legacy. I wonder which is the case for me. That's the end of that one. And then, thank you. And then the second poem is because I was in a mood today and decided to share it. This is called The Fall of Aleppo. And this poem has a content warning for suicidality. The Fall of Aleppo. Why is all of my poetry so goddamn depressing when I am lucky to have the gift of breath at all? I have gratitude for Tuesdays, gratitude for seahorses, gratitude for brioche, gratitude for boredom, gratitude for oxytocin, gratitude for cannabis, gratitude for kittens, gratitude for peace. I watched the fall of Aleppo. I heard the children screaming. I know how bad things can get. Shit, I did not intend this poem to be depressing again. There is joy in Christmas, joy in motherhood, joy in amusement parks, joy in dancing, joy in culture, joy in childbirth, joy in safety, joy in orgasms, joy in elementary school band concerts, joy in the ocean. My lack of serotonin is not my fault. I do not deserve the shame. I'm glad all the Jack and all those pills did not end up working. I know life is empowerment. Life is beautiful. Life is darkness. Life is love. Life is fear. Life is laughter. Life is envy. Life is risk. Life is luck. Life is drive. Life is light. Life is agony. Life is precious. Life is to flourish. It is glorious, the luxury of consciousness and conscience. And I guess this one really isn't that depressing after all. Thank you so much again for having me. This is a blast.
Thank you, Shannon, for both of those beautiful poems and for just electrifying the space with that repeated life. That was wonderful. And that was, again, Shannon Frost Greenstein, who you can find on Twitter at Shannon Frost, GRE, SHANNON FROSTGRE, and on Instagram at Zarathustra_speaks. You can also find her on Facebook at Shannon Frost Greenstein, Greenstein, GREENSTEIN. ShannonFrostGreenstein.com is her website where you can keep an eye out for the forthcoming books. These are a few of my least favorite things: An Oral History of One Day in Guyana and Correspondence to Nowhere. So much exciting work coming out from Shannon, and follow it closely. And thank you, Shannon, for being here with us. So we are getting close to the midpoint of our order, and so we've had a lot of readers from the Kirstafia anthology, and we're also excited to feature a few readers who are either returners to performance anxiety or folks I'm just really excited to hear for the first time. And we're very excited to welcome a returner in Kat Giordano. And Kat Giordano is the author of the novel The Fountain, an amazing work of fiction, and the poetry collection The Poet Confronts Bukowski's Ghost, which is on my shelf just over there. Whether we hear Kat's fiction or her poetry tonight, or a combination of both, we're so excited to have them back on Performance Anxiety. Thank you, Kat. Take it away.
Hi, thanks for having me again. I'm just going to read two poems. This one is called Creation Myth. Can everyone hear me before I keep going? Okay. Here it is, Creation Myth. When I was young, I swallowed a cone of light. My stomach hurt and everyone said I was lying. The rest is history, like a dog who swallowed a small toy, got into the glitter. You have to bend and pick out the little bits glimmering in the shit. Every year feels like 7, and I only know a few words, and I only know them in certain tones. You don't know why I do many things, why a noise can be enough to make me dart off to the edge of the yard and stand there all night looking. I'm afraid the light will run out and it will be like dying. I'm afraid of how small I want to be, of what passes now for control. Like a cartoon doing science, pulling a lever so hard it breaks off and the machine runs forever. I will now walk to the store in a tight little shirt. I will be a blurred cutout in the background of some man buying coffee. And if he talks to me, I will say what anyone else would say at a time like this. I will pretend to be a person who is not so great, and I will pretend to be pretending. Okay, so there's that one. And this is one I wrote like really recently, like a few days ago recently, just thinking about all of us talking about the world ending and how time is like super messed up. And it's called It Can't All Be Over, but I think that I'm going to change the title because I don't really like that. But that's it for now. Okay. We do still have most things. Water, art, whatever it is humming in the air between two people deciding to tell the truth. I've never been more naked than, I've never been more naked than right now, asking how over you think the world really is. I'm a peeled fucking lemon. What we didn't predict about collapse is how much it makes you want to call people, to buy plane tickets, to waste your money on a participation award for Tuesday. Let's take 1 minute, spare a thought for the grace it never feels right to talk about. Late at night, the hope I unfold like a blanket, the stains and the fraying like something from a war, but it isn't a war. It's the checkout line on a Friday in 2002 with my mom. We're in line and she says, one day you'll be old and you'll say, back in my day, we didn't have hovercraft. We had to walk everywhere. We had to sit in our cars for hours stuck on the ground, and none of the kids will know what you're talking about. You don't get it now, but they will look at you almost with pity, unable to imagine things had ever been that bad. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kat, for those poems. And that again was Kat Giordano, who you can find on Twitter and Instagram at Giordcat, Giordkat. And follow Kat's work, poetry, fiction, and otherwise at Kat Giordano, KatGiordano.com. Awesome. It's just, the vibe is good up in here this evening. And as we get to the exact midpoint of our evening, I am very excited to welcome Samantha Rose Johnson on this tonight. And Samantha Rose Johnson is a Bay Area born writer and editor. Her writing has appeared in Oya Drum, ILY Mag, Blood Orange, Tiny Flames Press, and more. She's a graduate of University of California, Riverside with a BA in English and is currently a student at the UCLA Extension Writers Program. She lives in California. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm excited to hear what you'll share with us.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone. Hi. I just want to thank Kristin and Marisa for having me and inviting me to join this anthology. I am honored and happy to be a part of it. So my first poem that I'm going to read, I'm reading 2 poems tonight. My first one actually is published with Oya Drum, but was first published by Kristin. So it's called Everyone's Afraid to Touch Themselves. And here we go. The blood is me, and it brings me home. Everyone's afraid to touch themselves. Everyone's afraid to get messy. You don't have to dip tongue in copper to spark a revolution. Don't pretend you aren't what you are. When you reach inside to empty the cup that holds home, come touch to touch with what connects you to earth, Pele, fire. Rawness of your womanhood, watering. Divine medley of womb, love, dirt, planted in depths of drowned ceramic. In the mirror, you see something ancient, each of your ancestors, reservoired behind your eyes, like infinite yous aligned in mirrors that face each other. Some welcome, some not, and there you are, with lives that made you, life you create, wash down the porcelain again, to restore behind your eyes again. Wondering when meaning will come and the blood will hold. You remember what you are, regardless of flow or lack thereof. Ancestors wake for release, 3-something a.m., 3 nights in a row. Your hair's grown wilder and your smile turns wiser and your insomnia grows a voice. Is it my bloated womb or my bloated mind? Is it all mine? Is this bliss? Will a new world make me hate the blood that brought me to this? The blood is me, and it brings me home. Everyone's afraid to touch themselves. Everyone's afraid to get messy. That's all for that one. And thank you. And then I'm going to read what's coming in the anthology, which is new. of course, because I wrote it for this. This one's called And You Were Doused in Honey, Wary of Bears. Ah, yes, you. Thought you were our gift. Thought you'd make us better for you. Thought you would long be better for us. A thrill it was to poison you, for the both of us, since you asked. A Southern belle, she'd suit you best. You're not man enough for the woman of the house. She'll suit you in her best. You won't fit. It's a woman's world, and you're just stumbling in it. Until the sun that peeks through poplars blinds in one eye, and my sister shall take the other. To you we are fools who cannot speak, who do not share a language. The swelling of your tongue will be your downfall. I'll drip every mapled crystal from my mouth to yours, coat you in saccharine seduction. Eyes will bore and stir the familiar feeling that drives you. Dear mother, she'll remove your limbs. Don't cower from your reflection. We're only saving you from yourself. I should have said that was inspired by The Beguiled. I forgot to mention that part in case that wasn't clear. But yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Marisa. I love you. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you, Kristin. And thank you, Tom, for hosting.
And likewise, thank you so much, Samantha, for sharing that work with us. That, again, was Samantha Rose Johnson, who you can find on Instagram and Twitter as Tiny Gnocchi. So on Twitter, it's TinyGnocchi, and on Instagram, it's TiiNYGNOCCHI. So Tiny Gnocchi in both places. And you can keep track of Samantha's work on her website, which is Samantha Rose Johnson, SamanthaRoseJohnson.com. Amazing. So we're right back in the Kirstafia swing of things, and I'm very excited in that spirit to introduce our next reader, who is Pam Avoledo. And Pam Avoledo is a graduate of Oakland University, who we're extremely happy to have with us tonight. Pam, thanks for joining us, and thank you for reading. Although I did maybe use my tyrannical powers to mute you gently earlier, so feel free to unmute yourself and dazzle us all.
Hi, my poem is It Was Fate. I press my ear to the cold white brick of the cell. Lindsay Lohan hiccups and gasps for air between sobs. I tell her it's going to be all right. We're in this together. 3 more months, Lindsay, then it'll be over. I tell her about my favorite scene in Parent Trap. Remember when you meet the queen? The sobs quiet down as I place my hand on the wall. And that's my poem for tonight.
Thank you so much, Pam, for sharing that. I think we all have our favorite Parent Trap scene that we like, Parent Trap being one of the great comfort films of all time, in my view. That again was Pam Avoledo, who you can find on the socials at I Want My Pop Cult, IWANTMYPOPCULT. And you can read more of Pam's writings engaging with pop culture on iwantmypopculture.com. So moving right through our reading order, we're up to our next reader, who is a Massachusetts native. So I love that, as being one myself. Joining us next is Erin Colleen Healey. Erin Colleen Healey was born in Salem, Mass, and now lives in New York City. We won't hold that against her. She has never seen a ghost. Hard to do that from Salem. So thank you, Erin, for being here, and take it away.
Okay, hello everyone. So this is the poem that's in the anthology, and it's called Cecilia's Song. God's tinting my world, all flowy curtains and pale pastel nighties. He thinks it is cute when I pull out my St. Cecilia medal out of my collar in class and play with it, smooth the engraving with my little fingers until the pendant is well warm with the groove of my thumbs. Cecilia, struck 3 times on the neck, survived, begged the Pope to turn her home into a church. That noble lady of Rome. All the Christians were martyrs back then. She sung to God on her wedding day, that patroness of musicians and poets, begged her husband to respect her vow of chastity, and he did. Later, when his hands find a way around my neck in moments I wish I could be kind, rewind back, and prevent his fat fingers I'm yanking on that silver chain. I remember I opened it in a velvet box the day I was confirmed. Now woman, now ready for all the adult sacraments at the soft and daring age of 14. For years he's gone, but I bet he still thinks of me as that little girl, ringing necklaces around the delicate and tender skin of my throat. And then, so that was Cecilia's song, and then this is another one, not in the anthology, and I wrote it the other day, and it's called Bound. Fuck it, I have broken my foot, and I am watching the sex scene from Bound. God, Jennifer Tilly is so hot. Black stockings beg to be rounded over her calves. Silk dresses scream to touch her waist. Red lipstick rings the doorbell over and over, waiting for the privilege of being smeared across her mouth, enveloped by the tongue, the lips, the spit. God, I am so sad and in so much pain. I am watching Gina Gershon pant in the moonlight, and Jennifer Tilly gives her feather-like kisses, and I cannot leave the house. I am wondering who will come to my home and put my hand in her chest and let me feel the tattoo there, and will she look like Jennifer Tilly? Even though I am stuck in this era of broken-footedness and writing poems about actresses, and I won't leave my bed because I am so sad, and I have not washed my water bottle in days, and I am definitely going to get some flesh-eating bacterial disease, who will come into my life and leave me panting? And that's it. That's the poem.
What a note to end on. I hope no flesh-eating bacteria actually, hope that was pure poetic license. That, again, was Erin, Colleen, Healey leaving us on a dazzling note. Erin, you can find on Twitter at BAI_Bubblestan, so BAIBUBBLESSSTAN, and keep up with that brilliant work. Jennifer Tilly sure would love to, I'm guessing, based on that poem. Whew, wow, yeah, it's like there's been a lot of like chill moments in the reading tonight, and that was one of them. And I'm excited for more as I introduce our next reader, who is Tony Brewer, a first comer to Performance Anxiety, who we're really excited to hear as one of our featured readers. And Tony is a poet and live sound effects artist from Bloomington, Indiana. He's executive director of the spoken word stage at the 4th Street Arts Festival, co-producer of the Writers Guild Spoken Word series, and president of the National Audio Theater Festivals. He's been nominated twice for a Pushcart Prize, and his latest books are The History of Projectiles and Tabletop Anxieties and Sweet Decay. Thank you so much, Tony, for being with us. I'm excited to hear what you're going to share.
Hey, Tom, and Kristin, too. Thank you both for having me here. This is a really great collection of readers tonight. This anthology sounds amazing. I'm going to have to get it. So I want to do 2 poems tonight. One from my book, Hot Type Cold Read, and then another one, a newer one. So this is about a trip I took to Maine some time ago. I think it was over 10 years ago now. And my apologies to folks from Boston. This is just how it was told to me. This is called Down East. Somewhere around here, Paul Stuckey started a radio station that has played Puff the Magic Dragon 24/7 since 1968, except for break-ins from Democracy Now! And the Hightower Report. People from Boston are called massholes. Limp shedders in a convenience store tank too long or yesterday's pound. Ask a local, lived here all your life? And he'll answer, not yet. Such happy yellow rubber trousers with booties attached and suspenders extending out of a hang-down mustache as dark and downturned as the mouth underneath. He's a watercolor of a wharf, stacking cages and banding claws and thinking of his manicured ex-wife's painted nails and mouth. How she hated his Irish music, and boy, that was a deal breaker. He could have just not let her get that close instead of running all the way to Maine to escape after the divorce. But the sun isn't hiding when it doesn't show its face. A milky pearl and clam-colored skies. Here comes the squall. Snap. That's how the weather works here. A rock-bound smugness saying, you just don't know the world like we do. Thumbs under suspenders like tongues on long vowels dying at the back of the throat. A fish slides easily through the hand until the fins prick like quills when you try to hold it fast and scale and clean and gut it. He prefers claws and armor boiling in a pot and putting up a good fight with a hammer and tongs and a long, buttery fork. Imagine trying to live here without synthetics, all oilskin and sealskin and real skin against wet wool dried over a smoky fire, and in another time, blubber. Fat people rich, now fat people poor. The boat is not his life. It's got a name, like a wife, and he loves every catch he dumps on her deck, writhing like a sequin dress she's not clean enough to wear, so it just lays there, all pretty on the bed. A radio's the only thing still running when a nor'easter knocks the power out. He cranks it like a phonograph, and out comes Elvis Costello, pretending he's Pete Seeger, doing a terrible Burl Ives, that tremolo wheezing forth, he'd almost rather hear the news. And off the coast, a foghorn, sounding all night, all year, though no one lives there, ever since the keeper passed away, remote controlled since 1958. He can tune a violin by it, G sharp, and the waves lapping the granite beach clean our whole rests. Since that one, and want to do, this is, thank you, this is a part of a manuscript that's under consideration at the moment. I'm hoping to have good news here before the end of the year. So, and I wrote this early in lockdown last year. I think I wrote this in probably April of lockdown last year. So this is called Pity for Sale. Pity for Sale, after Ferlinghetti, after Gibran. Pity the bee who has no country, its fuzzy, swollen appetite and hardwired love of candy. Pity the window, gladly accepting so many waves of heat and hand, fogged with condensation of desire. Pity the vegetable in its untouchable packet, disguised as itty-bitty seeds that are mere possibilities. Pity the failed backup and make it new. Pity the ambulance, so lonely it stalks my next-door neighbor twice this year alone. Alone. Pity the billionaires in love with zeros. No, fuck those clowns, right in the zero. Pity the worker who identifies with a king. Pity the tree dragged down by sweet honeysuckle, the red buds pinking the woods, telling us it is time. Time. Pity the time it takes to feel, the time it takes to unfeel, to unlearn, to unlove, to unseal. Pity our ranks and forms, a slot for everyone when we all would be better off marked other. My country, 'tis not insane, but copes horrendously. Sweet land, sweet liberty, ask any busy bee. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tony, for sharing those amazing, amazing pieces with us. The chat was blowing up while you were reading. We were just quoting lines. I'm going to be thinking about the ocean as whole rests until I see it again. That was Tony Brewer, who you can find on the socials. Let me get this straight. Wordsmith Tony B on Twitter, Wordsmith Tony capital B, and then on Instagram at Demand for Poetry, Demand number 4 Poetry. Tony's site with links to poems, books, audio, and video is tonybrewer71.blogspot.com. And Tony actually published 2 books in 2021, a split chapbook with Tim Heerding called Tabletop Anxieties and Sweet Decay from Roaring Junior Press, and The History of Projectiles from Alien Buddha Press. So we got some good Alien Buddha representation here tonight. Tim's also going back, or Tony's actually going back into the studio this month as well with experimental audio collective Urban Deer Recording Cults, who are at urban-deer.com, and also collaborating with audio artist Marjorie Van Haltern with the Electroacoustical Poetical Society, which you can find at the Electroacoustical Poetical Society.com. So to round out the polynomy, the polymath nature of Tony's work. He also had a short film called Indiana is a Beautiful Place to Cry Into, featuring Urban Deer, accepted by the Film and Video Poetry Society. And it'll be screened as part of a competition later this month. You can find that at fvpsociety.com. So we're really excited that Tony's got all this awesome stuff going on, and we're really grateful that he made the time to share those 2 poems with us, which were absolutely beautiful. And as we get to this point in the evening, it's always a little bit bittersweet for me to get to our last couple of readers, but we're going to end with some really wonderful voices, the next of which I'm excited to introduce, and it belongs to Monique Quintana. Monique Quintana is the author of Cenote City from Clash Books in 2019. Clash is just an amazing publisher, and a contributing editor at Luna Luna magazine. Her work has been supported by Yaddo, the community of writers, and Sundress Academy for the Arts. She's also been nominated for Best of the Net, Best Microfiction, and the Pushcart Prize. You can find her at MoniqueQuintana.com, MoniqueQuintana.com. And Monique, thank you for being our penultimate reader tonight.
Hi, thanks so much to Tom and Performance Anxiety for hosting, and thank you to Marisa and Kristin for putting together a gorgeous anthology. I'm so excited to be a part of it. So I'm going to read 3 tiny bird pieces, and the last one was in Christophia. This first piece is about the one time I went to Versailles with my sister. I binge watch Halston until I birth Girl Hawks in glass. My kid sister thinks I'm ignoring her phone calls, but I'm not. I can fold a bodycon dress from Shrouds too. I can fill up tear-shaped bottles with Pistol Rain and make a doll man to love. Where is my candy ghost boy to love? When we went to Versailles in 2015, Miranda ate clouds like they were clout. I tried to FaceTime California, but no one answered. This next piece is about a crow that is a couturier. It's called Crow Fashion. The problem with being a crow seamer is that you have to make all your couture from wicker. Non-bird creatures say that bird art is cliche, so birds have to work harder to prove they're true artists. The other birds will hate on you. No one will let you live down when your kid sister had a panic attack when she was wearing one of your corset designs. She took care to smooth out those twigs because she's particular, but she laced the thing too tight to impress her friends at dinner. To make up for this unfortunate episode, you made your cousin a goat blue pantsuit that complemented her talons, and you made all the city folk festival masks to match the grassy rain tethers of impending summertime. The clouds cool your feathers, and the taste of salt and worm makes you seem faster than other birds could ever do in the sun. The problem with being a crow seamer is that other birds are at war with you because you all worship the same ancestors, and you want to prove you know ritual better than they do. The problem with being a crow seamer is that the other birds will hate on you and set your dress shop on fire, your beak pecking to save your designs, your best harsh caw, pecking at the hot clouds like it's the last good meal you'll ever eat. This last piece is called Battle Boy. Queen bird, I saw you run off with that boy bird behind the chateau, pecking strawberries between your beaks. He's a soldier bird. He will leave you. My queen, I know it's a confection to succumb to pleasures, to watch wingtips salute black lace pulled over your skull shape, cold as buttons. Queen bird, I know what masquerade is, and you won't find such honesty with him. See how the clouds wait and watch plume with clout? Play games if you will, come under canopies. Pretend you are the other bird heroes. Maul like dolls beside the glass all day. But you don't believe he won't turn back to lines, back to horse hooves and snow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monique, for those beautiful bird pieces. Again, the chat was blowing up. It was mostly me just being excited about the line, "He's a soldier bird, he will leave you." Like, oh my God. That again was Monique Quintana, who you can find on Twitter at Quintana Gothic, Quintanagothic, and on Instagram at Quintana Darkling, Darkling. And Monique's website is moniquequintana.com, where you can follow up her work and check out Cenote City from Clash Books just a couple years back. So what a beautiful also segue, because Monique read a poem about the crow couturier and the fashion world, and our last reader knows a little bit about that. Our last reader is a performance anxiety vet, someone I'm always happy to hear work from, new and otherwise, and that is Sara Matson. Sara Matson's poetry can be found in Impossible Task, the journal Petra, Bone Bouquet, and elsewhere. Sarah's chapbook, Electric Grandma, is available from Another New Calligraphy, another wonderful press, also run by a teacher, and her full-length collection is forthcoming from Swallowtail Press. I think it's really amazing. I wrote a blurb for it because it's that good. Sara lives in Chicago, where she tweets as @SkeletorWrites. More of Sara's poetry can be found at neutralspaces.co/Sara Matson. And Sara, I am so pumped to hear what you're going to share with us, and just so pumped for your book. It's a great time to be me today.
Zoe, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it, Tom. Thank you so much, Tom and Kristin, for having me back. It's really just such a pleasure to read. Everybody is so fantastic, and I'm really honored to be here. I have 2 poems to share with you tonight. They're both inspired by The Beguiled, and I really want to thank Kristin and Marisa for bringing this movie into my life, because it's wild. So my first poem tonight is called Corporal, and I'm going to try and do this little thing where I add in a sound clip. Let's see if it works. Who knows? Corporal. We buried him in his own skin, undergrowth wrapped in goth terror, and waited like a modern blanket, blue ribbon clutching the gate. House of mad women, vengeful bitches, swooning, shattered glass, soundtrack behind every breath, crickets, and moonbeams worn like the finest jewels. Nightbug murmurs over mushroom stench, blush noisettes, like rushing blood, quiet horns over top of morning damp, all carrying the weight of uneven stitches in our chests, hot like a sleepy enemy, crushed by summer warmth. Thanks. And my second poem tonight, I'm super thrilled to say, is included in the Christophia collection, and I'm really honored. This one is also about the Beguiled, and it's called Mercy. Mercy only goes so far, but what if it went further and smothered me in familiar jump stitch, damp bound to raw middles like a natural blonde, distant gunfire. Tree branches larger than my embroidered world, ribbons bent in summer fog, girlish breath tucked behind the ear and frozen at matted thigh, restraint taut against flat Midwestern accent, the taste of tight plates behind brogue, sweat like weariness worn as heavy column colonial structure, antebellum inheritance, gunfire, distant gunfire. Healing compassion, floor to pitched ceiling, jealous side-eye sister whispers in the night, yards of cotton threadbare against stolen pearls and clutched bed knobs, miles of creamy linen between our hearts, balancing smiles on threatening postures and longing in the garden, gazes held at trees or wildflowers or southern hospitality, distant gunfire. Pinched cheeks and mournful giggles, starched taffeta gleams in sunset warmth, teenage violin clasped hands spun beneath carriages, warnings crawl over bare collarbones, dreamy pastels impregnated by violence, beads dancing across a lusty floor, gunfire in the distance. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm Sara Matson.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and what an amazing note to end us on. If you're like me, you read a Sara Matson poem and then you have to like fix your hair or something, like that was Sara Matson, whose poems you can find all over the place, but especially on Twitter at Skeletor Writes, SKELETORWRITES, and again, Sarah's full-length collection, Personal Fashion, it's going to be available early 2022 from Swallowtail Press, which is an amazing new imprint. I cannot tell you how excited I am for other people to read this book, because it will be absolutely as stunning as the poem Sarah just shared with us. So check it out, Personal Fashion from Swallowtail Press. Pre-orders, I believe, now are open. So I encourage you to take that opportunity and run with it to the hills. Yeah, wow. What an amazing way to bring this reading to a close. I just want to say thank you so much to all of our readers, anthology contributors, featured readers, everybody for sharing their beautiful work with us this evening. It was just wonderful to hear. It always lifts my mood to get to hear this stuff. One more day of school between now and winter break, and it'll be much more palatable riding this wave that I'm writing now, having heard this work. Thank you to our listeners for giving this hour of your lives over to poetry. Please keep your ear to the ground for the imminent release of the Kirstafia anthology from the Daily Drunk. I hope if you're listening, whether live or on YouTube, to us with a sheaf of new poems, new shit that you've written close at hand, you might consider dropping us a line at Performance Anxiety on Twitter, Performance ANXT, or you can just email me, tomsnarski@gmail.com. I would love to invite you to do what you've just heard our brilliant readers do in the last hour. Our next reading is going to be on the third Thursday in January 20th. We would absolutely love to see you there. And in keeping with our sort of minimally traditional performance anxiety tradition, we're going to end with a poem, because that's the way to do it, I think. And this poem is by Barbara Guest. It was actually written after a painting by Grace Hardigan, which God knows if this will show up any sort of a way on YouTube. But there's this really absolutely gorgeous painting by Grace Hardigan that you can find online. It's called The Hero Leaves His Ship. And so is Barbara's poem called The Hero Leaves His Ship. I wonder if this new reality is going to destroy me. There, under the leaves, a loaf. The brick wall on it, someone has put bananas. The bricks have come loose under the weight. What a precarious architecture, these apartments, as giants once in a garden. Dear roots, your slivers repair my throat when anguish commences to heat and glow. From the water, a roar. The sea has its own strong wrist. The green turf is made of shells. It is new. I am about to use my voice. Why am I afraid that salty wing flying over a real hearth will stop me? Yesterday, the yellow tokening clouds. I said no to my burden, the shrub planted on my shoulders. When snow falls, or in rain, birds gather there in the short evergreen. They repeat their disastrous beckoning songs as if the earth were rich and many warriors coming out of it, as if the calm was blue, one sky over a shore and the tide welcoming a fleet bronzed and strong as breakers. Their limbs in this light, fused of sand and wave, are lifted once, then sunk under aquamarine, the phosphorus. Afterwards, the soundless bay, gulls fly over it. The dark is mixed with wings. I ask if that house is real, if geese drink at the pond, if the goat herd takes to the mountain, if the couple love and sup. I cross the elemental stations from windy field to still close. Good night, I go to my bed. This roof will hold me. Outside, the gods survive.